Good morning. Welcome to Psychic and Mediumship Development Part 1. Before we begin, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Brenda Diskin. I am a natural born medium. I have been working with mediumship since I was a child and working with the public since I was 15. A lot of people ask me if everybody is psychic. Yes, we're all born with psychic ability. We're all born with that extra sense. Usually you notice it as a child because you may see things, you may hear things. You hear about babies talking to unseen beings while in the crib. And you know, a lot of parents do discourage their children from talking about these sorts of things, which is very understandable because if you go to school and you're the only one there that's talking about seeing ghostly things or seeing people that aren't there, you can be ridiculed, you can be bullied. So yes, I can understand where they're coming from. My parents neither encouraged it nor discouraged it. My mother was psychic, and my grandmother, and my son is also very psychic and a very good medium, although he doesn't use it. When you begin your development path, either to be a psychic or a medium, which I will explain the differences a bit later, you go through certain areas of development, and also you will need to learn certain different steps to enable your development to take place. A lot of people believe that they can become mediums by sitting in circle and just giving out messages to each other and developing that way. Yes, that is possible, but sometimes the development is a lot slower, and also it might not always open up all the right channels. The idea of development is so that you can become the very best that you can be. I'm not saying you're going to be the best in the world or the best in the country, because, you know, that's where ego steps in, which is a totally different thing, which again we will talk about in later videos. It's just about giving your best, making sure that you are the best that you can possibly be. You have followed all your development rules. You have listened to the different aspects of development. You have practiced the different aspects of development, and you have also you're also working by a code of conduct, and that is very important. And again, all this will be covered at a later stage. For now, I want to talk to you about how we start to develop psychically. And I do believe that everybody has to go through the psychic stages before they go into mediumship. The reason being, it helps to open up all the senses, and that is very important, because if you want to work in the best possible way, you have got to know how to translate everything that you get, because not everything is given in pure simple terms. A lot of times we're given stuff in symbols, which it's very difficult to establish what they mean if you haven't got a clue yourself. So psychic development can consist of a lot of things. It can consist of working with tarot cards, not necessarily working with them by the book methods, more working with them intuitively. Being able to look at pictures on the tarot cards and interpret them in a way that connects with the person you are reading for, not connects with what they actually mean by the book method, but how they connect with the person you are actually reading for. So one particular card could mean one thing for one person and a totally different thing for somebody else. So that is very important. These exercises also help you to work with colours. They help you to work with symbols, and they help you to open up your clairvoyant senses. We meditate. The reason we meditate is because it helps us to work with all the senses. During a meditation, you will be asked to visit certain places, listen to certain sounds, smell certain smells, hear certain things, see certain things, and maybe even taste certain things. Also, you will be asked to feel. And by feel, I don't necessarily mean touch. I mean feel within yourself. Just as you would feel sympathy, feel sorrow, feel sadness, feel joy, you will feel all these types of emotions and more, and learn how to recognize them, and also learn how to recognize whether these emotions belong to you, or the feelings that you're getting, pains, etc., or discomfort. Recognize whether they belong to you or whether they belong to somebody else. You will be taught how to handle these feelings, get rid of them once you've finished with them, because you don't want to be hanging on to somebody else's conditions and feelings. We have enough of our own in this life. We don't need anybody else's weighing us down. Once you have gone through all these stages of psychic development, then and only then are you really able to move on to working with mediumship. And that will come at its own pace. You can't rush these things, but you can safely be able to do readings for somebody in a fairly short period of time. A lot of it is about listening to what you're told, understanding what you're being told and taught, and learning discipline, and then having the confidence to move forward and work on your own. Okay, so now we're looking at psychic here, being a psychic, and we're also looking at being a medium. So what's the difference? Okay, right, a psychic. A psychic is someone who tunes in to the things around the person they are reading for on an earthly level. That is the person's past, present, and future. They're tuning in to it on an earthly level. So they are picking up on that person's vibrations, and they are working with those vibrations. Okay. When you start to pick up on somebody, you should be able to give some very good information about what has happened in the past to this person, so that they know that you're actually with them. You should be able to give them some information about what's going on in their present situation, which is what they've come to you for. And you will be able to give some insight into the future, but don't forget that the future is not set in stone. Certain things in life can cause a problem with your future. You may have certain ideas about what you want to do in your future pathway, but it only takes one person coming into your life who wasn't there before, and it doesn't matter how fleetingly. It can be somebody just crossing the road in front of your car when you're supposed to be at a meeting, and you have to stop for a few minutes because you've nearly hit them and the person is irate and you're irate. And even that little pause in time can cause problems with what goes on next in your future. I hope that makes sense. A medium is someone who connects with spirit energies. That is, they connect with the energies of people or pets or other animals that have passed before. We are all energy. This body, it is just a shell. It's there to house our brain, our bones, our organs, our circulatory system, our muscles. It's there so that we can be a solid mass that can perform certain duties. Excuse me. These duties may be on an earthly basis, as in doing a day-to-day job, or they may be used to work spiritually, connecting with spirit or psychic forces to help people on that kind of level. I'm not going to go too deeply into the different types of mediumship at the moment, because that's going to come in some later lessons. But what I would like to say is that a lot of psychics have been termed as clairvoyants, which loosely based, I can understand where they're coming from. But really and truthfully, clairvoyance is a type of mediumship. It is a way of working with mediumship. But because the translation is clear seeing, people believe that it's connected to psychics as well. So a lot of psychics these days are being called clairvoyants, which I just want to say that if you do see an advertisement for a clairvoyant and you are looking for someone to connect with spirit, please check with the person first that they can actually do this and they are not a tarot reader or a crystal ball reader or a palm reader who has been labelled as a clairvoyant. Please check, because it does make a lot of difference to the type of reading you will get. I'm not saying that psychics are rubbish. I'm not saying that by any means, because they're not. There's some very, very good psychics out there who can give some very good information, but they will not connect you with the spirit world, with the energy of the people that have passed over and the particular people that you are looking for. One other thing that I want to cover in this first lesson is, very briefly, I want to cover discipline. And discipline covers lots of areas of work. Because we're solely dealing with the psychic side of things in these early lessons, I'm introducing it now because I do feel it's very important in both the psychic side of things and also the mediumship. Discipline is very important. You discipline yourself right from the early stages. When you start to develop, it's all exciting, it's all very new. But one thing you must remember is that it is your body, your brain that is being used. And if it's being used constantly, at some stage it is going to burn out. So when you start getting things come through to you, it doesn't matter whether they're coming through to you on a psychic level or on a mediumship level. You must always have that discipline to shut off when you are not working. So your period of working with spirit, with psychic forces, with energies, whatever you like to call it, you must remember that you are in charge. So when you work, that is your period of working with those energies. When you are not working, you do your day-to-day life. You go about your day-to-day life. You do not have anything popping in. So when you're developing, you always say, okay, right, I am sitting in a development circle here. This is my time for working with these energies. As soon as I leave this circle, I have finished working with these energies, and therefore I'm now going to shut off until my next period of working. You can choose your periods of working. You don't have to sit in a circle once a week or anything like that and develop in that way. You can also sit on your own. But like I said, you must always remember that it's that period that you are working in. Say you set yourself aside an hour every couple of days. Once that hour is up, you cut off. It doesn't matter whether you're getting a message or whether you're halfway through looking at some cards or whatever you're doing. You cut off, because if anything is that important that it needs to be continued, it will be continued at a later date. So don't worry about that. Anything you get you don't understand, have a journal, write it down, because that way it gets it out of your head. That is the same whether you're working psychically or whether you're working spiritually with mediumship. Because sometimes we get messages for people, we have no idea who they're for, so therefore it's buzzing around in our head. Instead of letting it do that, write it down, write the date, time, what you got, in as much detail as possible, and then just let it go. Because hopefully one day you may come across the person who you're supposed to give that message to. The next thing I want to say to you is that it is very important not to push readings, messages, or anything else on people that you don't know or that have not approached you for that purpose. They may not want them. They may be scared of it. They may not. They may be of a different religion that doesn't believe in it. So please do not push your beliefs onto other people. Don't be tempted to walk up to somebody in a supermarket and say, I've got to give you a message. Please do not be tempted to do so. If you are meant to do that, if you are meant to give a message to somebody in a supermarket or some other place, you will find that there will be some way that person is brought in contact with you. Either you're going to bump into them, or you're going to be stood behind them in a queue or something like that, or you're going to be looking at the same product on a shelf and they are going to say to you, oh, you know, I can't really decide here. I need a clairvoyant, you know, and then you say, well, funny enough, I am. And then they may say, oh, yes, that's interesting. And then you've got your opening. But do not just walk up to somebody and cold sell. That's basically what I'm saying to you. It is not fair to the person. It could cause more alarm than pleasure. So please try and refrain from that, because it's, you know, it is against code of conduct. Finally, your code of conduct is that you must be responsible. You must always work with intention, and hopefully it will be good intention. And you must always work with other people's feelings in mind. We will come back to more about code of conduct and that in later lessons, and we will go further into it and to all the rules and regulations that are set aside by the government and by certain other bodies that insist that we have insurance when we're working, etc., etc. And I will go into all this at a later date. But for the time being, this is just an introductory lesson, and I will be coming back to you over the days, weeks, months with other lessons, and we will be going deeper into these things. There will also be an opportunity for you to work in a spiritual environment as well with these lessons. Okay, but more news about that at a later date. Anyway, I'll leave you for now, and I hope that you've enjoyed this introductory lesson, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye.